Hello and welcome to the Unbookable Podcast. I am here today to share my very first reaction video of what appears to be a a drag queen children's church music video called Love Somebody by Andrew. And I just recently did earlier today an interview with Paul Rossi, who brought this video to my attention. And he thought it would be a very good idea, as did I, to have a reaction to this because it underscores many different things about where our society is going and the oh, hold on just one second, I got to fix my headphones here, and where our society is going in terms of church, and it appears they're not working. There we go. It's not live TV. There we go. There we go. Okay, so and we are heading down a road where it seems that in order to include people who have differing ideas of what should be involved in society and church specifically, that we have to go to the nth degree. Progressivism always progresses, right? And it doesn't have a stop button. And so Paul and I talked about today about this vertical line that goes, in a spiral fashion, always forward, always progressing. There are times where you hit maybe a sweet spot where you get this vertical alignment, but it's moving horizontally, right? And eventually you get this sweet spot and it moves forward into something that maybe we did not want it to go, okay? And I'm going to react to this video as we move on and give you an idea of just how I'll stop in between just to talk about what we're seeing. But first, I want to make a connection here. This is the same music director that Libs of TikTok showed us the other day in this tweet here. So it's the same music director that brought in the drag queen into the church service. So I want to play this for you. And tell me if you can hear this or not. I want to make sure that we can hear it. Here we go. As you can see, pretty revealing outfit for church, and everybody is very excited to see this person. And this is all done in the name of inclusion here. And when in our conversation, Paul and I talked about whether or not you can have a society that will include one aspect of society further and further down the progressive road while still maintaining values that lead to success in society. And this is a debate that we had that you'll see in my interview with him coming out tomorrow. But this is a stark difference, a very quick, stark difference from what we have seen in churches even just before 2 years ago. Okay. And the issue here is, first of all, I want to say this. If you want to go to a drag show or be a drag queen and you're an adult and you want to go and that's adult entertainment, that's fine. You have the freedom to do that. There is an artistic aspect to this that could be explored, especially for adults. But as you'll see in this music video that I'm going to share with you, children are being exposed to this as a moral virtue. And some of the things in this video are questionable to say the least, especially when you are putting it under the umbrella of the church and church schools, right? Church and church schools. So again, this is the same video. This is the same music director that brought in this drag queen that lives of TikTok Exposed. And so without any further ado, I'm going to just start the video, and we're going to go through and kind of talk through it as it progresses. Before I do that, though, I want to say that the song is catchy. I mean, the music director obviously has talent, and he is, making this with a lot of excellence in terms of the way it's produced, right? But there's a dichotomy here, and we'll talk about that. The dichotomy is versus what you hear in the song. So if you were listening to the song outside of a video aspect, if you're just listening to it, say on the radio or on your headphones or whatever, it has a more palatable message in terms of the inclusive nature of it. But when you combine that with the visuals that you're about ready to see, that is where it becomes concerning. And this is where we talk about music as a social emotional learning technique, where a specific political ideology is injected into art forms in order to make children or take children down the road of accepting an explicit political message. So when we use the G word, that shall not be named, right? We're not talking about just the aspect of making or leading children down a road of sexual abuse with an adult. What we're also talking about is an indoctrination technique of, you must accept this type of lifestyle in order to be morally good. And the inverse of that, the inclusionary aspect of it, or the exclusionary aspect of inclusion, comes when, if you don't accept this in your church service, standing up and clapping for, a scantily clad male in female clothing during your church service, then you are bad. You are a bigot. And that's a very black and white way of thinking. There's no nuance to it at all. That maybe, hey, there is a time and place for this in an adult setting, that if you want to go do that, you can, that's fine. But when you start injecting it into a church service, and especially when you start putting children into the video with many different visuals that you will see here soon that are not appropriate for children, objectively not appropriate for children, you start crossing a line that there is a line that is being crossed in terms of what is appropriate for children and why are we showing this to them as adults. If it's not to create a relationship with a child that's explicitly sexual, then there has to be another goal to it. And the other goal, they will always say, is inclusion or inclusionary, right? But there's something that comes with that. There's a political motivation that comes with that, because when the child gets old enough to vote, right? When the child gets old enough to vote, what are they going to do? This is going to be their moral tie that they put into the ballot box, that anybody who supports this moralistic viewpoint, that scantily clad men in women's clothing should be included in all religious services, as a focal point, not as a parishioner, right, sitting in the pew, but as something that's paraded down the front into the front of the church, and standing ovations. It takes the focus off the religious aspect and puts it directly on an individual for their outward identity. This is antithetical to a spiritual purpose, but it's also using art form as propaganda or a social emotional learning for children, because that's, as you can see, that's a lot of what this video is geared toward, right? So let's just start. I want to, without any further ado, I want to make sure that we get the full context here. Okay. Love somebody, we need it. Oh, yeah. Okay. So immediately. Love somebody, we need it. Just look at this for a second. We have two men with their shirts off. Okay. This isn't involving drag yet, but One of them has nipple tassels on. So already they're drawing attention. While love somebody, we need it. These are the words that are happening. Love somebody, we need it, right? But the eye is being drawn towards, my eye at least, was being drawn towards what is being highlighted, which is these nipple tassels you see here, right? And where do we usually see that kind of garb, right? We usually see that in a strip club, right? So it's sexualizing the video already. There's a message, love somebody, we need it, love somebody, we need it, but nipple tassels. Okay, kids? Nipple tassels. Yeah. It's comfortable, it's natural, it's spiritual, it's love. Okay, now it's comfortable, it's natural, it's spiritual, it's love. Music has the ability to form the mind in a way that almost nothing else can. If you don't believe me, try to say your ABCs without singing them. Right? It's you latch on to things. So now you've just had a visual and you've had an auditory learning, and now here's the explicit message. It's comfortable. This is comfortable. Guys dancing shirtless on a building with nipple tassels. Comfortable, spiritual, natural, love. This is social emotional learning through music. This is what you see all the time in pre-K music classes, right? Sometimes they'll use, social justice and inclusion and equity and all that. It'll be chanted and sung in a way that sticks with the child beyond their younger years. So here we go. We'll keep going. It's comfortable, it's natural, it's spiritual, it's love. Okay, so right here, look at this for just a second. Let's just juxtapose what's happening right here. You've got a man in the background. You've got a man in the background who's in a mesh t-shirt so you can see through it. Okay, you've got a bus with two adolescent girls coming off of it, and in the right hand, or in your right hand corner, I believe that's how it's inverted here, you see two men kissing at the same time. So I'm going to back this up just a little bit, and we're going to listen to the words that are being spoken here or sung here while this imagery is being put out. This is social emotional learning. This is transformative social emotional learning. Okay? I'm going to start here again. Okay, now look. Boys like boys and girls like girls. We've got two men kissing, and then we've got two adolescent girls coming off of a school bus. So if these two men over here, this is not geared towards children. The two men on the right there, okay, those are adults, fine. Boys like boys, girls like girls. Why are we injecting school-age children into this? In a sexualized manner, because you've got a guy in the back, scantily clad, you got two guys pressed up against each other on the right, making out, and then two girls coming off a bus. Tell me, as a pedagogue, or as a music teacher, or as a music director in a church setting, which this is the music director from the church that was shared by Liv the TikTok of the drag queen, right? What is the purpose here? It's got a very queer theory based. If you look at, I want to scroll down a little bit. Music video celebrates the beauty of the queer community. So queer theory is its explicit goal is to break down all societal norms that anyone sees as normal, whether that's heterosexuality, whether that is, gender. So that when you talk about all of the pronouns and things, right? They want to constantly bifurcate all of the pronouns, so you have so many so that you can't tell the difference, right? It is a form of identity Marxism that's designed to cause confusion and break down society. That's you can listen to James Lindsay on that. That is what they say. That's the explicit goal. But again, here's the juxtaposition. We have a school bus with two adolescent girls, boys like boys, girls like girls. We have two gay men on the right making out, and then the singer in the back in a mesh shirt singing those lyrics.
There's room for everyone in between. Holding hands and kissing you, it takes courage like they've never seen.
Okay, holding hands and kissing you, it takes courage like they've never seen. So they're already saying, look, this is us, we're the good. They, anyone who doesn't agree with this, like me, or anybody who thinks that there might be something wrong with this, are explicitly having problems with this. And hey, just 1 second. We've got a visitor. Here is Paul Rossi has come into the live stream here. Hey, Paul, how you doing?
Hi, how you doing, Mark? It's great. I didn't mean to interrupt you. Yes, this is the music director at the school where I used to teach, and this was the school featured in the Libs of TikTok video and an article I wrote. This is the music director, a very talented man, and I'm glad you pointed out the last frame with the juxtaposition, because that's something I noticed. Like I'm still processing that. Like I still can't make sense of it. This slide right here, and it's like, yes. So I just wanted to add that. Imagine if this was a, well, let me back up. Like some of the objections that people may have about this, or that it's somehow homophobic or transphobic. Mm-hmm. Would you have a similar validation of heterosexuality? So if there was a boy and a girl kissing, a man and a woman making out against a wall, and would you promote that? No, I wouldn't. You wouldn't want that either. Just in the same way that for drag queens in church, imagine if there was, say, a group of exotic dancers that mm-hmm. were hired as physical education teachers to teach pole dancing. Yeah. Okay, so in the name of the Trojan horse there, the mot there would be that it teaches body positivity, it teaches physical fitness, it teaches confidence, mm-hmm. All of these things. Would parents who are heterosexual, normed as hetero, would they be okay with this? No, clearly not. This is bad. It's bad because it's sexualizing in an inappropriate way and promoting contact between the educators around. Of course, so it really is something else. Anyway, sorry, go ahead.
No, I think I just want to hit on that a second, because this is a form of social emotional learning. This is transformative SEL, and music is built for this. Honestly, it's a great delivery system for SEL, for a political ideology. We've seen that throughout history, right? And so you have, again, I mentioned at the beginning of the cast that if you were to listen to this song without the images, it becomes less stark, right? I mean, you may disagree with some of the content, but of the sound and the text of what you're hearing. But when you add this frame, just this frame, and we're going to get to some others, right, that is designed to say, hey, look, you've got adolescent girls. It sexualizes them, and this is what all of us on this side of the argument have a concern with, just like you had expressed. So yeah, let's keep going. And thanks for being here, Paul. I appreciate you jumping in.
Sure, yeah.
And again, Paul brought this to my attention, and he agreed that we just, probably couldn't wait to get this out, because we need to highlight what's happening here. And you said this was at your former school.
That's right, Grace Church School.
Grace Church School.
This is actually a video that Andrew Leonard, who's the music director, he put it out on his own site. He has another one another video on their Euphoria. Mm-hmm. But he has had other children at other school events sing the song. Some of them very young, some of like 3rd grade, 4th grade.
Oh wow!
And I think that's something. Right. And so people need to be
cringeworthy.
aware of this, and
Yeah.
and that I think there's clearly something off about this.
Yeah.
So that's why
Well, I think you made the perfect point that
Yeah.
whether they were heterosexual, gay, trans, it doesn't matter. When you bring sex in front of children and make it this stark, there's a problem. Okay, let's keep going.
Girls like girls, there's room for everyone in between. Holding hands and kissing you, it takes courage like they've never seen.
Right, and I just
Yeah,
want to hit this
political.
again, is that, and I think you brought this up in our interview earlier, but he's othering people that don't agree with him. We are good, they are bad.
Right,
Just
right,
as a
yep.
stark point, right?
And we don't play by your rules.
We don't play by your rules. And a guy
Right.
laying on the ground. Okay.
Touching himself.
Yeah,
ironically.
touching himself.
Yeah.
Oh. Okay.
Okay. Now this.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I'm sorry.
It's all right. I'm going to back up just a second.
I'm going to lose it.
I'm going to back up and just get to the money shot, for lack of a better word. Here.
Yeah. Okay. So it's a little Sharon Stone action. I don't know what this is, but it's a naked man in heels. I mean, maybe they're not naked, but clearly you're naked in the bathtub. This is to.
Well, he appears like he has no bottom.
Signifier. Right. That's the provocation. Why is he there? He's expressing himself. He's just being himself. It is perfectly.
And that is the height of goodness, right? That is the height of.
Yeah. This is the chorus says, we don't play by their rules. We have our own rules from the stars above. So it's clearly as on a hierarchical level saying that this is from the highest level of spirituality. This is connecting to like the ultimate.
Well, and taking it from a Christian standpoint, because this is done by a Episcopal church music director who's a music director at the school, I assume as well, right? Comfortable, natural, spiritual love. And, the Christian trope is God is love. Well, if this is love, then this is from God, right? And I will say this, that sex in general is and from a spiritual standpoint is meant, if you want to take the root Christian, it's meant for procreation. It's meant to create families. It's meant to if you want to take it to the stark conservative view of it, which is a man and a woman become one, they make love, and that's an actual spiritual act under the bonds of marriage. But say what you want about that, that's not the real issue here, is that sex in general is now being thrown up on the screen, right? We must view it, and that is the act of love, right? You being willing to and okay with viewing it is an act of love, right? And even in church.
I guess we have our own rules from the stars above. Love somebody.
Okay, and now we start seeing.
Love somebody.
Okay. Now here.
Yes.
We have a small child and obviously adolescent, older adult, young adults or teenagers. I would put them at 12, 13, 14. And then an adult on the left. So we've now juxtaposed the earlier scenes, the naked man in the tub, the two men making out on the side, and, another man laying on the ground, and children waving the pride flag saying, we're a part of this. Love somebody. Mm-hmm. There sometimes just aren't words. We're going to keep going.
Actually, side note about this.
Go ahead.
The person standing in the back next to the pride flag with the sort of concentric circles on her dress is one of the most prominent critical race theory consultants in the city.
Really?
Yes. Her name is Sandra Chapman, and she's been extremely influential. She had a consultancy called Chap Equity, and she had until recently a mother load of CRT resources for teachers that were freely available on Google Drive, so anyone could go and peruse these things. She eventually put it behind a kind of a registration wall because a lot of this material was being not only used at Grace, and some of it got shared publicly, but it started to become a little bit too exposed. I have the whole archive of it. It's some of it's quite astonishing that how radical it actually is.
Oh, wow.
So just
Well,
a tangential point.
Well, and I think it's a great point to make that, this first, we started seeing it under the bounds of critical race theory, right? And the umbrella for that is diversity, equity, and inclusion, right? You've got diversity and equity, diversity of gender, diversity of sexual preference, diversity of skin color, but we all must think the same about these issues, right?
Right. Yeah,
and so this is all
orthodox.
right. This is all being under the bounds of inclusion. We must include, in order to be inclusive, we have to be okay with this being in front of children. That's basically what I would boil it down to, right? So that's very interesting. Maybe we can get some more information on her later on. Okay, and we got. Well, and just to be inclusive here, this is obviously right here on a woman, right on the right of the screen, and what I just noticed is that she almost fell out of her top. Like she had to pull it up, and it's so she is scantily clad as well. It's not about heterosexual. It's not about gay.
Yeah,
it's not about anything else. Is that this is not appropriate for children? It's just not. Why are we exposing kids to this? So just to be inclusive there.
It's comfortable, it's natural, it's spiritual, it's love.
I mean, it's a catchy tune. That's kind of
and that's the truth. Don't you try to question me.
Don't you try to question
me. Don't you try to question me.
Love is love.
Yeah, and the I mean, I don't know. There seems to be a look of glee at the prospect that anyone might challenge him.
Yeah.
So
come at me.
Yeah. Come at me. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. And well, here we go.
Yep.
Here we go.
When the world accepts the truth, that's when all the people will be free.
I want to back.
Yeah. We gotta pause there. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I just want to. The fist.
The fist. Yeah.
I just want to point that out. Well, the pride fist, and we talk about this as identity Marxism. The fist is common among Black Lives Matter. It's common among the Soviets. It's common among the fist has a meaning. I just want to point that out. It's pretty self-explanatory. But yes, what did you want to say about it?
The truth. Wait, I got to hear the line again because
let's go back.
Accepts the truth, that's when all the people will be free.
Okay, when the world accepts the truth, that's when all the people will be free. So this is the kind of the utopian, if CRT, gender identity Marxism, they have just like all Marxism has this kind of apotheosis where this liberatory phase where it's quote true equality, collective liberation, these types of things just generate a tremendous transcendental power because it's the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow,
right?
And so that's gender. Radical gender theory has its own kind of pot of gold where when everyone accepts it and all boundaries are broken down, there will be this kind of protean mass of polymorphous perversity. It won't be perverse anymore because everything will be accepted, where the libidinal energies will be free to flow in all directions. It's very Marcusean. In all directions, and it will attain this kind of collective enlightenment, liberation. So he's referencing that.
Yeah, and I was actually making a point on that earlier. Is that it's designed? It is Marxism. I mean, it just is. I'm not going to add anything to it. Let's keep playing. Here we go. Where'd it go? Oh, I lost it. Pardon me. And pardon me, guys. I lost my screen here. I know it's there because I can still see it. Here we go.
And we don't play by your rules. We just love. I guess we have our own rules.
Say again.
So I'm not sure who in this video is a student. It's not important whether to identify any students, of course.
Yes.
I think that some Some of them seem to be the age of students, if not actual students. So just remarking on that.
Well, and if he's the teacher, music director at the church, it would make sense. And as we see, there will be a more stark representation of the church itself coming up a little bit later, right?
Yes, right. That's right.
Yeah. So here we go.
And they blow up that house. Yeah.
Some more. We got some more kids. And again.
Notice in the lower left, I think it is for people the BLM, drawn in Sharpie on the pectoral.
Yes.
Yeah. So the signifiers are there.
Right. And all of this is linked together, right? I mean, you can't accept BLM and not be inclusive of this type of thing. You can't accept this and not be acceptive of BLM. They're fusing all of this together, that this is the new faith, I believe, that's infected this church, right?
Yep.
I mean, it is. So here we go.
It's comfortable, it's natural, it's spiritual, it's love, it's comfortable.
I'm not comfortable. It does not feel natural to have a scantily clad woman dancing
with a
for
t-shirt
children.
you see what's on her t-shirt?
What does it say? Power
bottom. Do you know what a power bottom is?
I believe I do, but I will let you explain it because you'll probably do it.
I might have gone like out beyond my skis on this one. But I think it's someone who is sodomized, takes anal sex,
right.
I'm not gonna speculate. I just know that that's part of it.
Right. And it sounds that they're maybe a pro at it, I guess. I don't know.
Or there's some dominance relationship going on with the power thing.
Right.
There's like topping from the bottom, and there's all sorts of stuff going on there. I don't know. Obviously, I'm not going to speculate. But it's a sexual practice around anal sex.
Yes. Okay. And again, let's just ask the basic question: why is that message suitable for children at all? I mean, especially as delivered by adults through music video. Doesn't seem like there would be any case where we need to discuss that with kids. Okay. Okay, give us the context here, Paul.
Okay, so this is the Reverend of the church he's an Episcopal Reverend, and he's also the school chaplain. And he's combining the sign of the cross. It's sort of a syncretistic merging of the reverend symbols of the Christian faith with the new faith. So we're seeing it really merged here, symbolically and enthusiastically embraced, let's just say.
Right. And I believe that he had made some comment to you about maybe this not being a perfect example of what it is, but the overall good outweighs whatever's imperfect about it.
Oh, yes. Actually, that was the rector who responded.
Oh, it was the rector.
Yeah,
okay,
the rector.
So
he actually had. So there's somewhat of a grassroots campaign to an email campaign to object to the drag queen in the church. Either notify the diocese or contact the rector directly. And the rector has responded by saying, I think I can find part of the response.
Well, we talk about this a little bit in our interview too, but basically, the message is that the overarching good of this outweighs whatever might be imperfectly done in the presentation of it.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah. That's the message. So,
but yes, he's making the sign of the cross while holding the pride flag. Right. And okay. Well, I mean,
it's natural, it's spiritual, it's love, it's love.
I'm not sure what that's supposed to be.
I don't know.
This, another again, like almost defiantly challenging self-consciously political towards any haters out there.
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
And it's come at me. And if you do,
Right.
there's going to be consequences, right? If you
Mhm.
question what we're doing, the pastor's on our side, right?
Mhm.
The church is on our side. We've taken this now. And so if you have a problem with it, you're the one who'll be excluded because of this inclusion, right? So
Mhm. Yeah.
therefore, conform or get out, basically, right?
Mhm.
They needed His love.
Okay, I have to make a musical comment there at the end. He was really, really out of tune.
Yeah, yeah. It's hard. It's hard. It's hard to stay up there and get it all. Yeah.
Yeah, no, but
Yeah.
yeah, he was really out of tune. I'm a choir director, and hey, man, fix that in post production at least. Come
Yeah.
on,
There
let's
you go.
well, there's we've said a lot about the video. What
Mhm.
I want to come back to what I think is probably the most stark example is just this.
Mhm. Yeah. That's pretty much.
Yeah,
That is a pedagogical approach. There, it has a clear meaning and purpose. Um,
it's intentional imagery
mhm.
combined with explicit content behind a musical message, right? And that is social emotional learning. That is it is indoctrination to the nth degree, right? If you think about, let's take it to the other example. When you would have the propaganda videos, the American propaganda videos in World War II that would pejoratize or demonize Japanese people, they always had it with a caricature,
Mhm.
right, of you know a Japanese person that was, looked a certain way with triumphant music in the background being, overtaken by the American forces in order to support the war effort in at the time, right? And that's a standard practice going back eons, right? As long as there's been music, right? Whether you're talking about chants or drums or whatever it may be. You can do that in the affirmative as well, and not in just the pejorative, right? You can do it in the affirmative, and that's what you see here is just this combination of sexualization with a school bus and adolescent girls, and that is what hit me the hardest. Is it's like, what is the purpose of that? And I think what they will probably do is come back and say, we were just putting this together, you know,
Mhm.
and claim some sort of ignorance.
Yeah.
To
Yeah. I
go
mean,
ahead.
the mind thinks associatively. Here we have these associations. It's pretty clear what's going on. I think, if I was to sort of put the module, reactivate my module of how the justification is for this, is to say, well, look, so much of their orientation and assumptions about the status quo are that the status quo is so pervasive. Heteronormativity, cis heteronormativity is so universal. It's the air we breathe and so on, that, they at the same time that they aggrandize their purpose, they minimize their ability. They kind of minimize their own power by saying, oh, we're just trying to, if we do this, we may make a dent in the fabric of society, and
Right.
and but what winds up happening is they have a real myopia when it comes to their own influence on children, at the
Hmm.
same time that they're leveraging it.
Yeah.
So it's a kind of plausible deniability that they have. I mean, I remember getting into a conversation with a colleague about this, who had really come down pretty hard on a student for not, for saying something, that was taken as racially insensitive, so on. But like, I was like, well, do you understand? Like, you have power in the situation, but
Right.
this person saw themselves as being so marginalized that they couldn't really appreciate their own status within the context of this school and the power that they wielded within the school. So at the same time that your oppressive status justifies what you're doing, it also minimizes to yourself your own impact when it's convenient.
Right. Well, and here that you're constantly hearing, especially under the bounds of critical race theory, that you know, impact is supposed to supersede intent. It's supposed to be constantly viewed as the whatever your impact as a white cisgendered male
Mm-hmm.
has on a marginalized person in any way, your impact supersedes your intent. But they then take and invert that when they're in this situation, and you know,
Exactly. They're to be judged by their intents always, never
right,
their impact.
exactly.
Right.
And so, and it's that's how you weaponize the empathy of people is unreciprocated empathy is manipulation,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because
Mm-hmm.
they're demanding that you give empathy to their situation based upon your impact on them, but they will not reciprocate that,
Right.
right?
Right.
And that is I mean, that's textbook manipulation,
Right. And
right?
it creates this very powerful incentive which says, listen, if you join our tribe, we will judge you on your intent.
Right.
You know, as long as you apologize when you're intersectionally challenged, you know, within the hierarchy for your impact, like as long as you fall on your sword every time,
Mm-hmm.
we will extend to you, you know, the like say like the indulgence of judging you mostly by your intent. If you're outside the schema, you will only be judged by your impact.
Right.
So, you know, I remember like I went through a conversion experience. I attended a training session, a 2-day, 8-hour a day circle training, where I really, you know, at the end of it, I kind of was converted to the woke mindset, like fully embraced it. And I remember I had a like a bodily experience. It really is like in the body. And it wore off, you know, a month
Mm-hmm.
or two later. And I started to go over like, wait a minute, like what's the truth value of this stuff? But I definitely experienced that conversion in an embodied way, and
Interesting.
the release uh, of like my own critical judgment at the same time that I embraced everyone else's.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like real cult
It's faith.
mechanics. Yeah.
It's faith because it's the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not yet seen, right? I mean, and
Mm,
that can be applied to anything, right? But that's how the Bible defines faith: is that it's a willing suspension of disbelief when it comes to what is not objectively observable, right?
mhm.
And imagine this is train a child. Proverbs says, "Train a child in the way that they should go, and when they are old, they will not depart from it." Right, and that's ancient wisdom. Whether you want to take it as you're a Christian or a Jew or
Mhm.
whatever it would be, but that is they keyed into something there, and that is what is being weaponized here. And so the what comes down to it is which value system here is going to be most produce the most successful people in society, right? That's where we start getting into, and we get into that conversation in our interview that will come out tomorrow, that will highlight this video towards the end of that interview. But uh, if it's that effective on adults, if it could take Paul Rossi, who's one of the more thinking people I've ever had the pleasure of knowing here, and manipulate his mind at that moment to the point that he started to accept it. Thank you that you didn't and got out of that. What can that do to children? Right? What is the
Yeah.
power that
Yeah.
has and it will stick with them, because the reason why Paul, a few months later said, wait a minute, I need is because he was taught how to think at a younger age, and that's what stuck with him. And so that's what the danger we have here is that if you accept this as faith, it's state sanctioned faith. It is.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
we're in
No.
trouble, right? Oh my Lord. Well, that's kind of where I want to leave it. Just everybody, give us your comments on this. If you, I know that it'll come up a little bit later, and we'll get some more views on it. But as you watch it, tell us what you're thinking here, good, bad, or in between. Put it in the comments. Like and subscribe to this channel, and we want to keep this conversation going because, again, this isn't about gay or straight. This isn't about making demons out of trans or people who identify as whatever gender. This is about the sexualization of children. And that's where we come down to and what the political purposes of that. So, Paul, I want to give you the last word. everybody follow Paul Rossi too, since I have him on here. At Paul D Rossi on Twitter, and he writes for Legal Insurrection as their chief educational analyst, and he is on the advisory board of the Educational Liberty Alliance. And thank you for bringing this to our discussion. But I'll give Paul the final word here.
Thanks. Yeah, one of the premises we talk about the sexualization of children, the mindset and the premise of education today is that children are sexual from birth.
Mhm.
And there are teacher trainings that say that explicitly, and what do they mean by that? They mean a kind of a shell game where, because you have a curiosity about sex at an early age, and because you are gendered from birth, therefore you are sexualized from birth, and therefore this really dovetails with queer theory in the sense that any imposition of a boundary is in some ways an oppressive force that needs to be transgressed, or can be transgressed as a political statement. We're talking about educators that are raised in the mindset of teaching to transgress. So curiosity itself is sexualized, where if you have any boundaries, we're talking about epistemic boundaries, categorical boundaries, these are an oppressive imposition to some degree, and therefore what they want to put in its place is a kind of a non-objective, individualized consent agreement between individuals. Now that's great, like everyone's for consent, but it is sort of like there's going to be all of this democratic negotiation between people at all times about what exactly they want to do when, and that's an incredibly inefficient system to not have moral norms which people ascribe to. And what that also allows for is that it allows the experts, the expert class, the consultancies, and the people who have created careers around SEL and DI to be the intermediaries and the high priests of what is and what does and does not constitute consent. So after they remove the objective norms, they will come in, and it will be their arbitrary decision who falls afoul of what lines. And so it's really a way for them to capture the market and the discourse around that.
Yep, that is a very good point and a very scary point. So, thank you, Paul, for being here again. If you enjoy what we're putting out here, like and subscribe to the channel. Stay tuned. Follow Paul Rossi, and we will see you soon.
Thanks, Mark.